In the tiny town of Wasta, 38 miles southeast of Rapid City, just off I-90, there's a very nondescript building, almost like it's camouflaged. But walk inside that building and it's like walking back in military history. It's a private collection displayed in museum form. So let's go along the way to a town of less than 100 with a museum that is far more than you might expect. Tom Rancourt has amassed a private collection of military memorabilia that's too much to take in from ground level, focusing primarily on the time frame of World War I through Vietnam. It's taken a lifetime to collect.
Since 1976, my father was a firearms dealer, basically since I was 6 years old. And I was always around law enforcement, and many of the law enforcement personnel are ex-military.
His family has a strong military background, and he wanted to be part of that. He wanted to join the Army.
Type 1 diabetic since I was 4. Army recruiter kept telling me no, even though I kept asking. So this is in a way is my service for those that serve for me.
This place is like a living textbook with far more stories than there is time to read. By trade, he is a structural engineer.
Engineering. That's the money maker. I spend it here. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I never have. All of my interest has been military and veterans, and that's where my investment and earnings over time have gone into the collection.
He and his family opened the doors to this collection in 2010.
I don't like a one-sided display. I like to show both sides of the conflict.
Not many folks own their own museum, and not many folks get a personal tour. So here we go. First, here's the family.
This is my wife, Roberta, my daughter, Samantha, and my son, Louis.
Stop one, cool vehicles.
It's a British 105mm self-propelled gun. It's called an Abbott FV, which is Fighting Vehicle 433. Manufactured in 1965. British Spartans are still in service with the British military. They've just been upgraded to diesel engines. This is the one I'm sitting in has a Jaguar unleaded engine in it. It'll go 54 miles an hour. It's amphibious, pressurized like an airplane for nuclear warfare.
A lot of pictures, each one with a story.
That's my Uncle Bob, my mother's brother. He was a half-track driver in Europe. He was at the Battle of the Bulge.
A full array of U.S. military memorabilia.
This one's artillery marked. It's dated 1918, and it has the Patton sword on it, named after General Patton. This is the Model 17 Enfield, the primary rifle issued to U.S. infantry personnel. This is an 03 Springfield with a magazine extension kit fitted to it. This is an 81mm U.S. World War II and Korea mortar.
And also examples of what our U.S. veterans were up against.
The German Army used this as developed in 1934. It's considered the most significant machine gun of World War II in that its rate of fire is 900 rounds a minute or more. It's a Maxim 19.8 water-cooled 8mm German machine gun.
And then there's this, and plenty of pictures of what he says is this exact aircraft.
This is a Marine Corps A4C Skyhawk, ground attack aircraft, not a fighter. It's a ground attack aircraft for low-level support of essentially ground troops in Vietnam era.
And check this out. It's that tank-looking 105mm British self-propelled gun. He says he has to run it to make sure it stays in mechanically sound condition. And the gun on top still shoots rounds. Now, just harmless ones filled with oxygen and propane. Rumbling through a field, this bugger will turn a few heads. No big flashy sign for this private museum, almost camouflaged, just off I-90 in Wasta. If you've met someone cool along the way, please call or email us to let us know. He says he's only got about 1/3 of his collection on display. He says the veterans of Afghanistan and Iraq and Desert Storm weren't allowed to bring home the same type of stuff as the folks from World War I and World War II and Vietnam. So no machine guns or anything like that, making it tougher for collectors to get a hold of those items. But he has a few of the current conflicts stuff on display.
It's quite a collection.
It is, isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Wow.